Hi, I'm Charlie. You may have seen me from #OurStories on some of these recordings during the module. I am community lead and I also used to head our social media at #OurStories. I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 social platform considerations, and I'm also going to be referring to some incredible examples from the database. Kicking it off at number 1. It's really, really important to make sure that you stay on top of your competition. Have a look around the social media platforms that you're hoping to publish on, and don't just look at other news platforms. On TikTok, it's great to kind of have a look at what the Washington Post are doing. They are a great example. Similarly, Supernight from Norway, fantastic example. It's also really, really important to look at influencers and look at the people that are setting the trends on these kind of platforms. When you're looking out on these platforms, look out for hashtag trends. On Instagram, on TikTok. These are often things that you can also join in the conversation with, especially on TikTok where people are creating videos around a certain topic. And then think about, on point number 2, how you shape those trends to match kind of your news agenda. Some of the best reels and TikToks that #OurStories have done have been based on existing challenges on those social platforms. For example, we did put your finger down challenge, where you had to count how many fingers went down to test your privilege. We did that for our South African audience, and it had a really great viewer count. We also did a similar challenge in partnership with World Vision, where we had lenses at the top of the head, and you had to make a difficult decision. It started off easy with questions, and then it got harder and harder and harder. And it was meant to kind of give you the sense of what it felt like when you had to make life and death decisions based on your access to food. The campaign was launched on World Food Day, and we saw 91,000 views on Reels alone. So it's really, really important to build on challenges that you see and kind of see how you can join that existing conversation. On that, it's really, really important to make your short form content interactable. So throughout this course, we've talked about using polls on Instagram stories, for example. But short form content isn't just stories. It's not just TikTok. It's also YouTube Shorts. It's Snapchat Spotlight. And it's also Instagram Reels. Facebook have also experimented now with having Facebook stories as well, which coincide with your Instagram stories, and you can share from one platform to the other. These kind of short form content formats are really popular with younger audiences, and they're rising in popularity. So much so that some platforms are prioritizing them. Instagram announced this year that they are prioritizing stories format, and they see a lot of their users moving towards the stories format. So they're moving from feed into Reels and stories, competing with the likes of TikTok. In order to kind of get anywhere on these kind of short form content platforms, what you need to do is make sure that your content is interactable. The best content will allow the users to duet it or to reshare it and give them a challenge or something to do to continue the conversation on. Things like Spotlight, which is on Snapchat, which is very similar to TikTok, but much shorter. Lots of challenges that work on TikTok and Reels and Spotlight and YouTube Shorts are all the same in terms of the fact that they allow the users to communicate with each other and keep the trend going. So when you're looking at content for those platforms, think about highly interactable moments, highly interactable conversations, highly interactable challenges. Polls are a great feature on stories that kind of allow you to kind of share your content on there and allow you to kind of have that ability to have that engagement and feedback with your audience. And you'll see that a lot of the partners that we've spoken to, a lot of the IMS partners that we've spoken to across this course, and a lot of the ones that we've highlighted have experimented with that polling feature, experimented with stories. Number 4, video, video, video. As Yusuf keeps shouting, video is really, really important because most social platforms are prioritizing video and video now. They've announced that that's what they're going to be prioritizing on their feeds going forward. Video is important because it's how young people communicate with each other. When I was sending out letters and texting, my younger siblings were sending videos to each other. It's really, really important to kind of get used to that communication and get used to the video format being the front and center of the future of digital. In the database, there's some really cool and unique examples of video content, from DW, Girls Off Mute, to the Motorcycle Diaries, where it's literally just a vlog of 2 people going around on a motorcycle, and it's so unique and so unusual to look at. Playing around with different formats in video can really make you stand out. And making sure that you have video aspects to certain profiles, for example, Facebook, where video outperforms, is a really great idea. Have a look at publishers like AJ Plus, like ourselves, #OurStories, who only publish video or publish video as the majority. These kind of platforms, you can see how video works within each feed and showcase how that would work for you. If you're a radio station, social audio is having a big moment. Podcasts are continually being favored year on year on year, and advertisers are really looking into them as a serious option. Podcast listeners have a median age of 34 in the US, which is younger than broadcast radio. It's younger than network television, and it has been growing month on month as well in terms of the listeners and podcasts among 12 to 34-year-olds. It was 27% in 2017, and now it was 49% in 2020. A really good example of a podcast series from the database is Intifada's podcast series, which touches on the Tunisian Me Too movement. It's a really powerful series of storytelling told through the voice. And if you want a really good example of kind of how to turn a really hard to tell story into an amazing and immersive podcast, please have a listen to that. There's also really benefits to kind of taking your live radio shows and condensing them into a podcast, because it's really easy to do and doesn't take too much resources on your part. You can also play around with making short audio snippets as well that could be used on things like short form content, or also could be released in shorter forms. For example, the Africa Check project that features in the database is all 2-minute snippets of fact checking that's taken from, existing radio resources. Those kind of short snippet audio is also really highly digestible and easy to listen to. Number 6, focus on share text. Share text is really, really important to gain engagement on your stories. People aren't going to click in if they're not intrigued by the premise of your video or your story. And that all depends on the headline and the share text that you have put out on your social media platform. And it differs between platforms as well. On Facebook, you might want to go for more intriguing, inspirational kind of share text, or pulling on emotions. On YouTube, however, it needs to be highly searchable. So think about the platform that you're submitting to before you write your share text, because it will differ depending on what you're posting to. Number 7, UGC is more native and looks less like a lecture. So a lot of news organizations don't see the benefit in UGC content, and it can derive from viral content that you've just taken off the internet and repurposed. That is not what #OurStories do, but it is something that can be used and in the right context with permission. These kind of things do go viral quickly if you are repurposing viral videos, and some brands have seen success with this. If you want to see one example of a really good use of UGC content, You can look in the database at the megaphone example. That's using UGC within a wider story in a really professional manner and in a really interesting way. Really simple in terms of the build as well, and a real possible model to kind of follow. In terms of the way that #OurStories do it, we do it much more like DW, Deutsche Welle, with Girls Off Mute. We are training our communities to empower them to tell stories. This is taking UGC a step further. We're actually creating new content with our community, and we're teaching them how to do that. This has more value in terms of being able to create a creative community. And this isn't just isolated to video, it's also available in print as well. City Dog, for example, talked about how they created a creator community during COVID around travel stories in Belarus. Within the database, there's loads of examples of where print and video publications have taken UGC and made it into incredible campaigns. For example, News 24 is a great example of where UGC has really strengthened the youth and community voice of that particular project. Number 8, make use of your existing content. Re-edit it. City Dog gave a really good example of where they had a mental health live speech. They live streamed it and then they re-edited that live stream afterwards to present it to audiences across different platforms. You can take content that you've already made or that you're making in terms of live radio broadcasts, for example, live webcams, and cut them down into shorter form content to use on different platforms at different times. This saves on resources and makes it a lot easier to go across different platforms and see success across different platforms because you're purposely formatting it for the platform rather than sticking the same content on every single page. 9, if possible, work with young people. We see huge drop-offs in our metrics when we work with older sources. Sad to say, but young people listen to peers. So you can see the success that Talk Up Ute have done in the database. Talk Up Ute worked with young people in Jamaica to give them a platform for their voices to be heard. They had live debate shows, they have radio shows, and now it's published, broadcasted nationally as well as on social platforms. They've seen lots of success with it because they gave young people a platform to voice their thoughts and concerns about their country, about topics within the country, and about their wider life growing up. These kind of opportunities are invaluable for young people, and you can see within the database there's a lot of innovative examples where publications have taken young people and taught them the skills that they need to know to be able to share their voice. As I've mentioned, #OurStories does this. We empower young people across the globe to tell their own stories. And it's really important to us that we're giving them the platform to have their voices heard. And number 10, make your content highly visual. So you'll see throughout the databases loads and loads of examples of multimedia content. For example, the incredible Generation Trapped by Zabarona, beautiful story told via photographs and multimedia interactive elements. There's lots and lots of examples that we've touched on in previous discussions and also throughout the course, and have a look at those on the database. But multimedia and highly visual stories outperform on lots of different platforms, barring Reddit and Twitter. On Instagram, you're much likely to see success if you have highly visual graphics or high quality photographs, as well as an organized feed. So that's it in terms of my top 10 things that you should consider for social media, based on #OurStories experience and some of the incredible publications in the database that I've referenced. Please have a look at the database, understand kind of how some of those publications did what they did, and it might be able to help you along your way in reaching these kind of younger audiences.